We're back with another video for the virtual workshop series. And this one's where the rubber really hits the road. If you've gone through the other videos, then you've done your work to prepare yourself for estimating by starting from a budget and calculating profitable costs and prices for your crews, equipment, and materials. So what's left is the really important stuff. Here's where we're going to produce estimates for our customers. This video is going to walk you through the basics of creating your first estimate with LMN, building a work area, and adding costs and prices to the estimate. We'll walk you through all the significant features and show you how to build an estimate that covers your costs, pays its share of overhead, is calculated to deliver you a profit, produces a professional proposal for your customers, and gives your crews the tools they need to manage their work more independently and more productively. Not only that, everyone in your company will be able to plug into the same numbers so that no matter who's doing the estimates, as long as the quantity takeoffs are correct, you'll all share the same costs, the same pricing system, and the same overhead and profit targets across your company. With his budget ready, Dan was ready for estimating. His budget calculated markups built specifically for his company in that particular year. And as his company changes from season to season, his markups can change with his company. Finally, he had a system for pricing his work. He knew this was going to help him win more profitable jobs, be more confident in the numbers he prepared for his customers, and help him negotiate from solid ground instead of just guessing at the right price. In short, Dan's budget tells him exactly what he needs to charge in order for his plan to become a reality. If he wants a 10% profit, then he needs a budget, a plan that is going to earn him 10%. The budget becomes the goals that need to happen in order for Dan to make the target profit margin for his company. LMN's estimating tool is going to use the numbers from Dan's budget to calculate job costs and add the correct amount of overhead recovery and profit, and all with just a few clicks of the mouse. But if you're thinking as an estimate as just a price, you're selling you and your company far too short. An estimate can and should be used for a lot more. An estimate is a price, but it's also a costing and planning tool that sets the goals for the job. An estimate should contain all the required labor, equipment, materials, and subcontractor costs and quantities so that everyone in the company knows exactly what the expectations of the job are. And so we can compare estimated to actual and find out what's going right, what's going wrong, and fix whatever we need to help our company get better. An estimate's also a planning tool. Once those costs and quantities are established, it takes that plan from the owner or estimator or salesperson's head and puts it into the hands of the people that need it. And that's the crew that's going to be managing the job. An estimate's also a selling tool. It should look professional, be flexible in its layout, and give you the confidence to negotiate from a position of strength, while also giving the customer the confidence to invest their hard-earned money in you and your company. When you look at all of the functions of an estimate combined, you might argue that the estimate is the single most important piece of information that your business needs to convert a lead into a profitable job. And for anyone having trouble staying profitable, growing their business, or even pulling back from the day-to-day headaches and operations, the estimate is exactly where you want to start. So with that in mind, let's see how estimates work in Landscape Management Network's estimating software. Let's start right from the LMN home screen. To get to estimating, you need to click the button for budgeting and estimating, and then you want to go to Manage Estimates. You have two options at this point, standard estimates or service estimates. Standard estimates are for construction type projects. You're going to get in, you build something, and then you move on to something else. Service estimates, on the other hand, are for service type contracts like maintenance or snow and ice, where you're going to return to site over and over again to perform the same tasks. In this video, we're going to deal with standard estimates, so click the Standard Estimates button. The next screen is Manage Estimates. Here, you're going to be able to create new estimates, edit existing estimates, make copies of estimates, or even print reports of your estimates by their value on different statuses. Let's start by creating a new estimate. Click the Add New button, and the new estimate screen is going to appear. Start by entering your client's name. Last name first will help you make sure your estimates can be sorted by your client name. Next, enter the name of the project. Your project name might be something like Williams Front Entrance or Smithson Pool and Backyard. Then you want to enter the address. Make sure you enter the city and state or province. If you do, Google Maps can quickly map this job when we get to the estimating screen. No need to put line breaks in the city or anything. You can just type it all in one line. Finally, it asks you for the budget that you want to use to price this estimate. It's going to use your default budget to price the work, but you can change it if you'd like. It also allows you to change the overhead recovery method. Remember this though, overhead recovery methods base their calculations on your budget as a whole. You really don't want to use one overhead system on one job and then switch to a different one on another job because it comes out priced better that way. Don't try to estimate some construction jobs with moors and some jobs with field labor hours if you're just using the one budget. You're going to break the math that makes both those methods work. So click OK when you're ready to start your estimate. The estimate worksheet opens, and the information you entered on the previous screen is now displayed in the information section at the top of this screen. But you can now enter much more information. Click the Client Contact Information button, and you'll see that you can now enter 2 phone numbers and an email address for the client. Or you can click Map Address, and Google Maps will generate a map for you. When you're rushing to get a crew out to a new site in the morning, or looking to get a delivery driver quick directions, this map button comes in handy. The date here is the date that you created the estimate, and the project name is the name that you assigned the estimate when you filled out the previous screen. The estimate ID number is a randomly unique generated number that you can use to identify your estimate by this code. The drawing or version number lets you assign a reference number based on the drawing that you used for the estimate, or you can build different versions of one estimate and use this number to track changes, like version 1 with the water feature, version 2 without it. Estimate notes are the notes that will appear on your printed proposals. You typically use this as an introduction to your estimate or to your company. It might say something like, "Thank you for the opportunity to quote on this project." Or perhaps you have a 1-paragraph description of your company's history or values. This is the kind of information that you might want to appear here. Estimator notes are internal notes that you can keep about the job or the client. You might use it for notes about the client or the site, or things to remember when you're estimating, like access restrictions, parking and delivery notes, soil or site conditions, anything you might want to remember but not necessarily show up on any printed proposals. These estimator notes will not show up on any of the printouts that come out of the proposal system. Then you can set the estimate status. Right now, the status is estimation phase, because we're estimating the job. But as we move the job along, we can set the status differently to say it's waiting for internal approval, or it's been proposed to the customer and we're waiting, or that we won the job, or that we lost the job. You'll be able to do reports on these different statuses back on the Manage Estimate screen, so you can see the total value of estimates you have, say, waiting for approval, or the total number of estimates that you've won or lost. Next up, you're going to see some estimate summary information, but we'll come back to this section after we've added items to your estimate. It's not going to make any sense now, since there are no costs or prices in our estimate yet. At this point, we're ready to start adding and pricing our work. So scroll down to the work summary section. Here's where we're going to add our costs and prices. What we're about to add here are called work areas. So let's pause for a second just to clarify what a work area is. A work area breaks a job down into a smaller, more manageable part. Let's say, for example, you're building a front yard landscape, and it consisted of a patio, a walkway, a garden, and some lighting. Each of these can be set up as separate work areas, with their own labor hours, their own list of equipment, and their own list of materials. It not only makes it easier to estimate, it makes it much easier for the crews to break down their tasks and their planning into manageable parts. Also, each work area gets its own subtotal price, so you can break down prices for your customer by these work areas as well. Let's add our first work area. Then, within that work area, we'll add the labor, equipment, materials, and subs needed to get that section of work done. You can add any work area you like first, I prefer to start by order of operations. Each job starts with mobilization and site preparation. I'm going to set that up as my first work area. You want to start your first work area by clicking the Add New button, located just above the Work Summary section. That'll open the Add Work Area screen. Next, enter the name of your work area. I'm going to call mine Mobilization and Site Prep. If you're building a patio, you'd call it Patio. Or if you're installing lighting, you might call it Landscape Lighting. Next, you could enter an ID number for the work area. If you're working on a tender, this could be the line item number on the tender. Or you could use this number to enter your own internal cost code. For example, you can enter the accounting cost code that you want to book time and expenses for this work area against. That way, when their crew books their time or their material costs, they'll know what code to book it against. If you want, you can also enter notes to enter a description for the work area, but this is optional. There's better room for customer descriptions coming up in a few minutes. When you're ready to add the work area, click the OK button. Now you'll see some minor changes to the screen. The title over the top left is the name of the work area. This means you're working inside that work area. And you'll notice some new buttons have now appeared over the top right of the work area summary section. These buttons are how you add labor, equipment, materials, and subcontracting costs to that specific work area that you're estimating. So that's exactly what we're going to do next. Now that we've got our work area named and started, we'll start adding estimated times and costs. If you're following along in the videos, you've already set up some of these costs in your estimating catalog, and that's exactly what we want. Because once your costs are set up there, adding them to an estimate is as easy as pointing and clicking. We're going to start our mobilization and site prep by adding the labor required to do it. To do this, I click the Add Labor button. Now you see a new screen open up. It's the Add Items screen. And because I clicked Labor, the screen is going to show me all the labor items, or the crews, that I've set up in my estimating catalog so far. To add a crew to the estimate, all I need to do is click this little green plus button. The item's going to move from the left side over to the right side to indicate it's waiting to be added to the estimate. Now we still need to add quantities, and that right now is the number of hours I need to estimate. It's set to 1. I prefer to add all my items to the right side first, and then go through and set my quantities. You can do it in whatever order suits you best. Next up, I add the equipment. To do this, all I need to do is click the Equipment tab at the top of this Add Item screen, and up will come, again, the list of my equipment that I've set up in my estimating catalog. Again, I pick the equipment needed for this work area just by clicking the green plus sign button, and it pops it over to the right-hand side. So I'm going to do the same thing now for materials. Click the Materials tab, and up will come my material list. Only this time, note that it's not going to load all your materials on this screen. After all, you might have several thousand material items. So to help you find the materials you're looking for, you can use a couple of handy tools. Number one is the search box right here. The search box is going to allow you to search for an item. And the search box will look through your names, descriptions, SKU numbers, even your units, to help you find what you're looking for. You can enter a whole or a partial word, and it'll search across all those fields to find the materials that have matches. You can also search by category. You're free to set up your own material categories, and you do this in the estimating catalog. Here you can use your drop-down to pick the category that you want to search across. Click the Go button, but first make sure that search box is empty. Otherwise, it's going to search within the category for only items with that text that you've entered in your search criteria. If you want to return all items in a category, make sure the search box is empty, and then click the Go. As an example, you might have created a category called pavers. Then, in your catalog, you could have assigned any all materials that you might use when you're doing pavers into this category. You could put gravel, edging, spikes, polymeric sand, any of the different paver stones themselves. Then when you're estimating paver work, all you need to do is drop this down, choose the pavers category, and all your typical paver materials will be right there at your fingertips. And if you still can't find the material you're looking for, you could also add it to your catalog right here on the fly. All you need to do for this is to click the Add New button, and it'll bring up the new material screen. When you've entered all the information about your new material, note that you now have two choices at the bottom of the material screen. If you click OK, it's going to add the material you just created to this estimate only, and it won't save it in your catalog for future use. Now, this is useful for entering materials that you're only going to use once, but it also is useful for entering budgeted line items. A good example might be a planting budget. Let's say, for example, that you haven't picked all the different plants you're going to use, but you do have a rough idea of what you or the client's going to need to spend. You could quickly add an item called planting budget and set the costs and prices however you see fit. Here, you'd click OK, because you'd want to add it to the estimate, but you don't want to save that planting budget into the catalog. The budget was specific to this job. If you click OK, it gets added as a line item in your estimate, and it doesn't get saved to the estimating catalog. Now, on the other hand, there's going to be a lot of times where you need to add a common material to your estimate, and you just haven't entered it in your catalog yet. So you don't need to go back to your catalog to enter it. You can enter it right here on the fly. This is where you'd use the Save and Add button. When you use this button, LMN will not only add the item to the estimate, it'll also save it back in your catalog. Now it'll be saved and available for future estimates right there in your material list. As you can imagine, the more estimates you do, the faster your estimating becomes, because your estimating catalog becomes more and more complete, and your jobs will take less and less time to estimate. In the meantime, when you're getting started, you can build your catalog on the fly by saving new items there as you add them to your first couple of estimates. Once I've got all the items I need on the work area for the right-hand side, I'll go through and I'll set my quantities. The only quantity you have to be careful with is labor. Remember when we did our estimating catalog, we used average crew costs, and that's per person, to calculate the cost and price per hour. We didn't add up the total cost to the crew, it was the average cost per man. Therefore, when you're estimating hours, it's really important that you understand you're estimating in man hours, not crew hours. If you have 3 people in the crew for a 10-hour day, you're going to need to enter 30 hours, 3 crew members at 10 hours each. Don't enter the 10 crew hours. That's only enough hours and enough costs for one person. The reason we use man hours is simple. Nobody can manage goals or job costing using crew hours. What if the crew had 2 people the first day, then 4 people for the next 3 days? No foreman can track their progress by crew hours. We need to estimate in man hours, set production goals in man hours, and do our job costing in man hours in order to accurately cost and manage the job. Now the rest of the quantities are easy. The units show up right here on the screen, so you know exactly what everything is measured in. You just need to enter the quantities required for the job that you're estimating. At this point, you might be wondering, well, can LMN calculate quantities based on square footage or some area measurement? And the answer is yes, but you need to use work area templates for that. You can calculate how much gravel per square foot for a job, but first you have to know what the gravel's for. You're going to need more gravel for a driveway, which has a deeper base, than you will for a walkway. Therefore, you need work area templates in order to build these installation ratios. The work area templates basically tells this material what it's doing. So if you haven't already, you can go back and watch the work area templates video to learn more about how to set up these installation ratios that will help you calculate the quantities. When you're finished adding items and setting quantities, you press OK. All of the items that you selected on the right-hand side now get added to the work area on the estimate that we're creating. You can edit now any of this information, including names or descriptions, quantities, or even costs and prices. Any of the white areas here mean that you can change that information. Just double-click inside the area, make your change, press enter, and you're done. Gray cells mean that the information is calculated. It's read-only information. You can't change or edit these cells. Most of the commonly edited fields are available right here on this screen, but if you really want to edit details, you can always click the Edit button. It's the second last button in the row on the right-hand side. Clicking this button is going to open a small edit screen where you can change lots of information about the item. And here's where you can change things like profit margins or warranty factors, or have the costs and prices recalculate themselves. Any changes you make in the estimate will not affect any information in your catalog. These changes that you're making here only apply to this estimate. If you want to make permanent changes to an item's information, you do need to go back to your estimating catalog and make that change there. If you look at the bottom row of the work area, you'll also see that we've accumulated some totals for this work area. Here's where you can see exactly what this work area means to your business. The extended cost field here shows you exactly what you expect this work area is going to cost in terms of raw dollars and cents just to get the work done. This number here doesn't include any overhead or profit or shipping or warranty. It's simply the raw cost of the labor, equipment, and materials to get the work done. Moving over to the right, you're going to see the break-even amount here. And this is going to show you what your true break-even is on this work. This amount includes your total cost plus your overhead recovery for this work. If you charge anything less than break-even to do work, you are, in a sense, paying your customer to do their work. Knowing your break-even means that anyone selling or estimating this job can now see with perfect clarity the absolute bottom line price for this work area. But of course we want to earn a profit. So finally, the price to the right of the break-even shows you the price you're going to charge your customer, excluding taxes. When you're finished the work area, you probably want to enter a little customer description to describe for them what this work area means. To do this, just follow these steps. First, move your mouse up beside the work area name and click this back button. This is going to take us out of the details of the work area and back to the work area summary screen, where we'll see rows for each of the individual work areas we've added to this estimate. There's a few buttons on the screen that you're going to want to use as well. If I slide across to the right here, the first button I come across is the Adjust Profit button. It looks like a little dollar bill. When you click this button, it asks you if you want to change the profit margin for the entire work area. So for instance, if I wanted a 15% profit margin on my mobilization and site prep, I could click the dollar sign, enter 15%, and click OK. Now LMN will go in and override all your customized pricing to recalculate, based on your costs, a price that will earn you a 15% profit margin. These next two buttons here have little word icons. One is a customer description, and that's represented by a house, and the other is for crew notes, and that's represented by a little hard hat. A customer description is a description of the work area that's going to show up for the customer on the printed customer proposals. Crew instructions, on the other hand, are notes for the crews that are going to show up for this work area. And these notes will show up on the job planners you can print from this estimate. To enter a customer description, simply click the Word button under the House column. Now you can type whatever description you want. Just click in the box and start typing. You can also use the formatting buttons above to do things like change text sizes, make words bold, add bullets, etc. Also, if you're using Firefox or Google Chrome as your browser, you can see that spell checking is also activated. Misspelled words show up underlined in red, and you can right-click them with your mouse to get suggestions on spelling fixes. At the time we made this video, spell check was not available on Internet Explorer or Apple's Safari browsers. So click OK when you're done a customer description. This is the description that's going to show up for them on their proposal. Now we want to do the same thing for crew instructions, but this time we want to make notes that are specific for our crews. We can use this section to make notes about where to pick up materials, give them reminders about the job sites or important items, or even include things like small tool checklists so they know what to have on their trailer before they leave in the morning. These get printed on the job planners that LMN produces from this estimate that you give to the crews, and we'll show you those in a few minutes. You can also build crew notes into work area templates so that when you can create something like a small tool checklist, you only need to create it once, and it gets automatically added every time you use that template in a work area. After you're done with the crew notes, there's a little checkbox button here that you can use to mark work areas as complete. You can do this when you know you've finished and double check the work area. The WAT button stands for Work Area Templates. It's a really handy tool to remember. It looks like a little lightning bolt here. Using this tool, you can instantly create a work area template based on any work area that you've built and completed for a job. So let's say you did a job and you finished creating a patio, and a really good breakdown of the labor, equipment, and materials. When you're finished, you could save it as a template so that on future jobs, you can reuse this patio template that you've built on this job. The next time you do a patio, you can use the template. It'll bring over all the same items, just not the same quantities, automatically. The more you use templates, the faster and smarter LMN becomes. You'll find estimating is not only faster, but you're going to eliminate opportunities to forget costs or miss items when you're in a rush. The copy button is one further button over to the right. It's going to make a second identical copy of this work area in the same quote. This is useful if you're creating options that are similar to one another for the client. A little further to the right, we have the edit button. This is going to show you all the items in the work area. It's exactly the screen that we were looking at when we created the work area, where we added all the labor, equipment, materials, and subs. There's two ways to bring up this list. You can click this edit button here, or all the way on the left-hand side here, you can click the plus button. And finally, to the far right, there's the delete button. The delete button is going to delete the selected work area and all the items in it. Fair warning, once you delete something, it's permanently deleted, so make sure you use this carefully. You will get prompted with a warning before it deletes your work area data. Back at the far left side, there's one more button I didn't show you. That's the hold checkbox. By checking on or off the hold checkbox, you can exclude or include a work area from the printed reports and from the contract totals. Clicked off or no check, the work area will be included in any proposal or job planner and the contract totals when you look at the screen. If you click it on, the work area will be on hold or excluded from any printed proposals, printed job planners, or totals that you see on the contract screen. It's a super useful button for presenting the client with options and upsells, since you can turn these off and on and reprice the estimate with a click of a mouse. If your client comes back to you at the end of the job or even in the middle of the job and decides they actually want to go ahead with that option, you've already priced it and it's ready to go. Just need to click it off again. Now that you've added your first work area and seen what the various buttons do, you just repeat this process until you've added all the. As you add work areas, costs, and prices, the estimate summary section begins to take shape. Here you can get a quick glance of the job's overhead recovery system, its direct costs, its overhead recovery, and the profit margins as a whole job. After you've completed all your work areas, you're almost ready to print a proposal. But first you might want to add in some terms and conditions to the estimate, such as payment terms or warranty clauses, exclusion clauses, or anything else you may want to append to the end of the estimate. The terms and condition buttons are closer to the top on the right-hand side of your screen. There are two areas where you can add terms and conditions. You can add them right before your work areas and pricing breakdown, or you can add them after. Header terms and conditions are going to appear before your work areas and prices. Footer terms and conditions will appear after. Clicking either of these buttons will open a window where you can enter text that you wish to appear on your estimate. You can also set up standardized text to appear on your estimates, and these will appear as options shown down the left-hand side. Once you set up these standardized text blocks, all you need to do is drag and drop these options into the text area, and it will add this text automatically. There will be more on this in the terms and conditions video, where we'll explain the whole process from start to finish. Now you can print your first report. Let's start with a customer proposal. To print anything from this estimate, you want to scroll up to the top right-hand corner. Using the report drop-down, you can pick any report that you want to print. Now there's several different options for each type of report, especially proposals. Each version of the customer proposal shows different levels of detail. Some just show work area names and prices. Others break down the quantities of labor, equipment, materials for the customer. You can play with the different versions to find one that suits your liking. Better yet, you can play with different versions to find ones that suit your customer's different likings. Every customer buys differently. Some people are technical buyers. They like to know details, specifics. They like to see exactly what they're getting and what they're paying for. Other people prefer to be taken into the moment. They like long, descriptive text. It sort of transports them from the kitchen table where they're looking at the estimate and allows them to visualize the job as you see it being created. Other people are like type A entrepreneurs. They like quick and to the point. Don't give me the details, just give me the bottom line, and I'll tell you whether I like it or not. LMN's different layouts will allow you to capitalize on this. You'll be instantly able to produce different proposals for different customers based on their buying needs. To print a report, click the version you want to print, then click the print button. The report gets generated, and then you can open it and review it, or you can print it, or you can even email it directly from this screen. If you want to send it by email, just look up at the top under the File menu and look for the Send or Send by Email option. You can also generate these reports as Excel spreadsheets or as Word documents. Another report you'll find very useful is the Job Planner report. This report is meant for the crews. It breaks down the nuts and bolts of an estimate for your foreman and your crews, giving them access to the goals that the estimator came up with when pricing the job. They won't see the prices charged to the customer, but they will see the hours estimated for the task, the equipment that was planned on when the estimator built the job, the materials required and the quantities of each, and any of the crew notes that you may have entered. This report is critical for productivity, as it takes the information out of the head of the estimator and puts it in the hands of the workers. Now it's fair to expect that they can take some of the responsibility and accountability for managing jobs on time and on budget. Using the planner, the foremen know the hours they have to complete the work, the equipment that was planned for them, and the materials they should expect to have prepared on site. With this report, they can help prepare equipment and materials by making timely requests for it. Since they know what's expected and they know how the job is coming along, they can help remember and plan to bring resources to the job when required. When your typical landscape owner starts a company, chances are that they're in the field, right on the job site, making all the decisions and dealing with all the issues as they come up on the fly. Now, this can work when the owner's on site, because the owner probably sold the job and priced it, and they have all the knowledge necessary to make the decisions right then and there in their head. Herein lies one of the biggest problems in growing a landscape business. The trouble with growing your business is when the owner starts to pull back from the field to spend more time on the business. The people who have to take over the responsibility in the field, the foreman for instance, simply don't have the information the owner had to make decisions, and the owner doesn't have time to explain everything and putting everything on paper. So without the information, crews have to continue to disrupt the owner with questions over every problem, or worse, they stop asking questions and they sit back and just wait for it to happen. Without the information in their hands, crews miss details, jobs fall behind schedule, customer expectations are missed, and job productivity and profit is wasted on rework and lack of preparedness. The job planner is going to take some of the information that's critical to the on-time delivery of a job and put it right in the hands of the person you want responsible for your job, the foreman. The more information they have, the more time you'll have to spend developing your business. One of the other types of reports you'll want to use is the profitability summary. Here's where you're going to get detailed information on the costs, the break-even, and the profitability of each different work area on the estimate. It's a useful report for anyone selling a job, but especially for owners and managers who are reviewing estimates for salespeople before they get presented to the customer. At the bottom of the screen, you'll also notice a Save As button. Using this button, you can quickly make a copy of the estimate that you're working on. Maybe you make a second version for the same customer, but with some different options. Or maybe you're doing another job for another customer that's very similar to the job that you've already done. You can use the Save As to make a copy of any estimate. Then you just adjust and edit the quantities and information on the job. And that's the basics of an LMN estimate. Clear and precise costing, accurate, profitable pricing, informed owners or salespeople, informed, confident customers, and an informed, prepared crew, all in one tool.